From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is the Midday Report on LALATE.
It's a big day here on Home LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. In today's recording, we'll go over the Build Back Better Act name check by the President of the United States just minutes ago again. And those incredible checks that go out to millions of Americans are needed. Plus, we'll be looking at an $80,000 in new checks that are coming out across the land this coming week. Are you ready to get it? I'll give you a preview of what's happening. This is the I Support Ukraine edition at home, and we'll be looking at what's happening overseas and impacts your wallet at home. Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression continuing overnight. What's the latest? And then what about the price of oil? And what is going on with that? And what are the ally countries doing to help or not help? I'll be looking at the situation and where oil will go this week, as a new predictor is out minutes ago. Then, is oil now the way to get Build Back Better Act passed? The latest details on that changing event. Then we'll be looking at the price of wheat and grain, swirling to 8-year highs because of Vladimir Putin's move into the Black Sea region near Odessa. I'll go over the latest on that. And then the battle for Odessa, why this is a major issue in the war. And how long will this war be? What's a humanitarian crisis today? And why has it grown by the hour and by the minute? Why has Vladimir Putin refused to honor safe quarters for refugees to flee? And what is the latest details on that in today's recording? We have a lot of money to go over. Plus, Anthony Blinken just arrived in the Baltic states. And what is he doing there that can impact your money at home and also the battle against Vladimir Putin's aggression? I'll go over all these incredible details, plus a preview of tonight's evening's LA show. It's the 1-hour special broadcast at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time that features those additional $80,000 of checks. We got a big broadcast today as I support Ukraine, and you should as well. We'll have the latest details of what's happening from the battlefront and a little bit more of my commentary. It's all here on Home Edition, I Support Ukraine, and the details start right now from Santa Monica, California, on Home. Hey, good day, everybody. I hope you're doing well. And you're watching me live from Santa Monica, California. If you're watching at 11 a.m. and if you're watching the encore performance, it's going on tonight as well. You look at the beautiful shores of Odessa. And we'll be going over what's happening overseas with Vladimir Putin's advances in Ukraine right now and what's happening in the refugee situation in Poland. But first, if you're new to the show, Home LA is a hybrid show. The first part of the recording goes over your money, and the second part goes over things at home. But it's morphed a little bit, and the show now focuses on our home as a family internationally. In the second half of this video, we'll be going over the Ukrainian crisis in more detail and how it impacts your wallet at home. Is this going to be a 1-week war, a 2-week war, or a several-year war? This is breaking news you're hearing for the first time in today's recording. But first, let's start with the Build Back Better Act. The fourth stimulus recon got incredible lifts overnight. Yes, this is exciting. The President of the United States appears in a brand new interview released today, in which he says, Build Back Better Act must get passed because the price of gasoline is going up. Interesting. So now the president is using gasoline as a way to sell Americans on Build Back Better. It's huge. That's why you need Build Back Better to pass. At least $15,000 of checks with 3 add-ons and 3 clusters. In that first cluster, they have hazard pay, $4,000 of elder care, checks for children, home repairs, and checks for college students. Also, money to care for seniors. That is the first of 3 clusters and 3 add-ons of checks to the Build Back Better Act. Now, one of the first incredible add-on of checks comes from Southern California. Less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. How do you get these incredible checks of Build Back Better Act? They're featured tonight in that 1-hour special report on evenings LA, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. In that second cluster, we have home repairs and paid leave. Paid leave's a lot if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness across the land. Upwards of $4,000 to $6,000 a year. Incredible. And then those home repairs are to weatherize your home. The second add-on of checks comes from Bob Casey. That is a campaign promise from Joe Biden. Just a little bit less than $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. In that third cluster of checks, we have the incredible seniors and free internet. Free internet for all, checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, and senior checks. 2 on the House, 3 on the Senate. Medicaid gap fix, hearing checks, vision checks, and dental checks. Now, when we're talking about adding checks as incredible recon, guess what checks they vow to add as well? MSC. MSC is a body of checks that will be added to the recon on top of the existing $15,000 to $60,000 of checks. The eligibility would be the same as a third stimulus check. That means if you got a third, you get a fourth. Let's recap. Single individuals, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it, double it. Family of 4, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get it as well. It's not income, it's not taxable, and it's offered on a nationwide basis. So how much is it? $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. Now, the viewership of this channel has always been the purple power, the community, the advocacy, and the push to get big sums of money. And when there's money available, we get it. Day one of this channel, I went live with the EIDL grant, EIDL loan, and the PUA, showing millions of Americans how to get big sums of money. And they got it. Well, the great news is that another pot of money is going live, and you can get it as well. What is it? A new fund goes live this coming week for $80,000 stimulus checks from billions of Americans. Tonight on the 5 o'clock evenings LA 1-hour special report, I'll go over how you get these checks. This is an average payout of $15,000 to $80,000 of checks to you. It brings us a complete circle back to day one of this channel. Why? Because you got to use your fingers. You got to open a website. You got to open the phone. You got to get a pen and paper and make the call to get these checks. This ain't a $1,400 check, folks. This is $80,000 a household. We haven't seen the sums of money in a while as one particular program. Great news is that it looks like third stimulus. That viewers this week got $45,000 again by making phone calls. But this is in addition to this. And this is for items that you've been asking for all along. Again, not a time to hold that tin cup and say, when's a check getting in my hand? Or stand by the mailbox and says, is it in there? No, this is a time to learn, educate, and inform. What happened in April last year? When programs for big checks went live in April of 2020, I showed viewers where the application was, how to fill it out, how to answer correctly. And if you answered incorrectly, sometimes your application got locked up, or what we called at the time a vortex. Remember that? That was the purpose of this channel, me showing you how to get money. Well, we're coming back in complete circle because these $80,000 checks are huge. There's a website and it's administered at a state level. So there's a lot of variables you need to get right. And if you remember this channel, you already are getting a preview. Last Friday's newsletter sent out to members of this channel Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, featured the website that has now gone live that will also have a map of where to get the checks across the land. Purple Hawks, you got to pounce because this is big sums of money. And this is right here and right now before anything covered in today's recording. This is going live as early as this coming Monday in certain jurisdictions across the country. And this is called the incredible funding source that Treasury has hoping to be going live for a while. It's called the Homeowners Assistance Fund. And you got to get these sums of money. Now, Build Back Better Act got a name check from the president today. Oh, yes, he did. The president of the United States, in a new interview that will be featured in tonight's evening's LA special report, says that Build Back Better Act will get passed. The interview was with Boston historian Heather Cox Richardson, and he explains why Build Back Better should get passed. What about SS300? SS300 also has a big update tonight in that 1-hour special broadcast. Because according to a new Dow Jones report released today, The inflationary number for January 2020, which is just a few days away to being released, may track at about 7.5% inflationary rate. Let's recap. Last year, I said that inflation would go to about 8% in December. And I was right because it came at 7.5%. Then I said January may track at about 8% as well. The new report out today suggests it may come in at 7.5%. This is why Joe Biden needs to make the phone call and swap out COLA for inflation. That would raise your benefits up $200 a month right now. Meantime, we'll have a preview of what Jay Powell's going to do in the next few days to bring down inflation. And will that impact your SS300? It's tonight on that evening's LALATE special report. 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. What about CR for stimulus? Right around the corner, folks. Very exciting. The opportunity to get a $2,000 stimulus check out of $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding approved. House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats have approved $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding to be allocated in a continuing resolution mid-March, and this could give you a $2,000 stimulus check. So you need to advocate for its inclusion because guess what? The money's there and the deadline is right in front of us. It's huge. CR for Stimulus 2.0 and 3.0. What's the update on those? Those are merging in the Senate, but no inherent deadline at the moment. The House passed by Pete Aguilar, the Senate led by Republican Todd Young, merging on the Senate to give more relief to the millions of Americans. And you need that relief because a new report out today suggests, are you ready for this one? The price of gasoline could go nationwide on average to $4 a gallon next week. Wow. A new report to be detailed tonight on Evening's LA 1 hour special report shows that gasoline prices are going higher, and this should not be a surprise to viewers of this channel. How does gasoline get impacted by the Ukrainian crisis, and why is gasoline going higher so quickly? I'll explain that in just a second, but first the data today is surprising. A new report out from AAA suggests the national price of gasoline could go to $4 a gallon for unleaded next week. Where is it right now? At the time of this broadcast, if you're watching it live at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, Sunday, March 6th, it's currently tracking on a nationwide basis at an average of $3.83 a gallon for unleaded as of Friday data. That was up 11 cents from Thursday and up 26 cents from the week before. But John Kilduff, a partner of Again Capital, says it may track to $4 a gallon next week. He says there's still room to grind higher and will continue to price in the loss of Russian crude oil. But how much Russian crude oil has been lost, and could more Russian crude be lost across the board? All that coming up in the second half of this video. Wheat and grain prices, however, are raging out of control. And this is part of the risks that are part of the recordings of I Stand With Ukraine. Ukraine is a major exporter of wheat and grain, and that crop is not being just disrupted for now, but potentially for years to come. The current situation is very fluid, and in today's recording, I'll be going over why Johnson out of UK says there must be stronger initiatives against Vladimir Putin right today than current. What are Boris Johnson's current comments? They're coming up in just a second. Meantime, what's happening on the humanitarian side? 2 corridors that were supposed to provide safe harbor for women and children to flee into Poland have been blocked once, twice, and potentially 3 times right now. What's the latest on Odessa? That's coming up in just a second. And Gershon to the south and the Black Sea towns. What's the latest on those towns as well? All the latest. Meantime, a brand new part of the equation, the Baltics. What is the Baltics? And why is Vladimir Putin's aggression towards the Baltics the next concern of the White House? And why is Anthony Blinken, at the time of this recording, flying and stepping down and talking to Baltic countries right at this very moment? What is the concern about what Vladimir Putin's focus is on the Baltics? It's coming up in the second half of this recording. But first, if you need money from third stimulus or first stimulus and have had problems finding it, reach out to the community page. Here's the community page. See you back in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities.
That's at news.lalate.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And good afternoon, everybody. The continuation is unfolding as Russia's advances in Ukraine continue by the minute. All the latest details of what's happening overseas, but tell also how it impacts your wallet at home. Oil and gas prices surging overnight, and also grain. But all this been considered by the White House or not? All the analysis and economic analysis unfolding right at the very moment. You're not going to hear this anywhere across the land. Meantime, why is the Baltics the next concern for the White House? And what is Antony Blinken doing about this and not doing about it? The latest analysis on that, plus the humanitarian crisis overseas. And I'll be jumping in the live chat and interacting with you. So get ready with your comments across the board. You're watching L8, and join me tonight for that evening special report at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The most watched financial news show in prime time that'll cover your money and, of course, its impact on the Ukrainian invasion. And with that, let's go into the big second half. When you look at Russia's aggression against Ukraine, it's not something that should have been thought about yesterday. Back in October, I first detailed on this channel that there was 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border. And this could be the major economic story of 2022. Not only a political and also human rights issue. So what did the White House do in October of 2021 to prepare for potential Russian invasion economically? That's the big question on today's recording. What did the White House do to prepare? The way you would prepare is you would have Treasury under Janet Yellen dispatch individual departments to see which industries in the United States could be disrupted if Russia invades Ukraine in 2022. So was that analysis done? As to oil, yes. This last week, we learned from the Deputy Treasury Secretary that Joseph Biden gave Janet Yellen an order to see whether oil would be disrupted in the United States if Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. Okay, good for that. He also gave other instructions to say, I want to figure out what we could do as a team to sanction Russia without creating economic casualties to our U.S. economy. Also good. But did the White House look beyond oil? Did the White House look beyond sanctions? Did the White House look to other economic industries that could be impaired negatively, directly in the United States via Vladimir Putin invasion, or indirectly because it would be impaired in another country we do business with, like in Italy or France? The analysis and the answer is going to surprise you. No. In a new interview with Reuters, the White House was asked whether it had considered the input on the grain and wheat industry from the Vladimir Putin invasion of Ukraine as of the time of this week, not as the time of October. And the answer was we have not considered that situation. This is troubling. This is troubling. Why? Let's go over the economic analysis and how it impacts your wallet. The U.S. economy is dependent upon the stability of our prices here at home. Not just oil and gas, folks. It's also bread, milk, eggs, and bacon. Everything has to be relatively stable. What can cause something to go stable? A shortage. Doesn't mean our shortage. It could be a shortage overseas, even from a country we don't import from. Here's the example. Wheat. Americans grow wheat. We have a lot of wheat. We have a lot of farmland. But if the countries we do business with, like Italy or France, import wheat from Ukraine, and suddenly that wheat's not available because Russia's invaded Ukraine, then Italy and France have to pay more for wheat from somewhere else. And if they pay more for wheat, then our wheat prices go up. That's how it negatively impacts us, even though we have enough wheat here to actually produce. So what's at issue? What's at issue is that the White House hasn't really. And who else has also not analyzed this? Wall Street. Now, this is where it becomes troubling. Wall Street's job is to assess risks and to determine how we as an economy are prepared to grow, get more employment, get higher paying jobs, afford our rent and utilities. And Wall Street's job is to assess risks ahead of time. Has it assessed the risk for disruption of other industries besides oil? It is not. A new report suggests that Wall Street has not even embedded any potential risks, let alone a potential recession caused by a shortage of other industries because of Vladimir Putin's invasion. Let's go over the analysis starting right now. Vladimir Putin's attention at the moment is Odessa. Featured on the channel for over a week, it's the crown jewel of the Black Sea. Dating back to Catherine the Great, you're looking at the beautiful opera house of Odessa. And while Vladimir Putin's not looking to go to the opera, he's looking to control the port. Why? The port of Odessa is the major port of the entire country of Ukraine. But it's a little bit more than that. If you control Odessa, then the industries that come out of Ukraine and transport products like wheat to neighboring countries cannot be sent out. That would cripple not just the Ukrainian economy, but also negatively impact price of goods in countries that we do business with, like, for example, in Italy. This is not strategically a war battleground position. It's a way to economically control Ukraine and economically hurt other countries we do business with. And yes, the net result is we would be economically hurt. Surprising? No. Available as a potential permutation to now analyze back in October? Yes. Did the White House analyze that situation back in October? No. In a new report, the White House was asked, did you look at the situation back in October? Did you look at it now? And the White House has said, no, we haven't looked at the situation. What they aren't looking at the situation, then the question is, what is the way to pivot? Are we ready to pivot if the situation gets worse? And how worse can it get? Here's what's at issue when you're looking at something like wheat or grain. It's a little bit more complicated. What's going on right today when you talk about gas prices, and why is it a little bit more complicated than wheat? Gasoline is very simple. You pump it, you store it, you ship it. It's literally that straightforward. You pump it, you store it, you ship it. Now, when you receive the gasoline, you receive it a few weeks later. It's not like your chips you receive overnight in 2-day express mail. It takes a few weeks. But that is how it works. The current gasoline being shipped and delivered was bought before the Russian invasion. So the first thing you need to know is that the true impact of the Russian invasion on gasoline will not be felt until late March. This is oil bought before the Russian invasion. Number two, Russian oil only accounts for 5% of the oil imported to the United States. Let's make it very clear. So we as an economy are not dependent upon Russian oil. Blinken, throughout a series of interviews today, yesterday, and potentially tomorrow, have been talking about banning Russian oil in the U.S. Good. Doesn't affect us at home because we don't consume much Russian oil, less than 5%. So why is this being talked about? It's being talked about for reasons that are really not economically grounded. The price of gasoline in the United States is going up because there's less oil available globally. There's less oil available globally because Russia is not exporting to our partner countries, then our gasoline goes up. How do we get our gasoline lower? We produce more oil here, or we get other oil released. Let's go back. Oil's in the ground. After you pump it, you store it. But you can only store a certain amount of oil. And if you are full capacity of storage, then you can't pump anymore. So what are the two options? Release the oil that's in storage and then pump more, or just release the oil that's in storage. Neither of those options have been pursued by the White House. Let's go over the analysis. Number one, the White House has the opportunity to have West Texas release some of its stored oil. Hasn't done it. The White House has the opportunity to have West Texas pump more oil. Hasn't done it. The White House has the opportunity to reach out to West Texas and coordinate a release of oil, pump more oil, or coordinate a whole job on how to bring more oil to the marketplace in the United States. White House hasn't done it. The White House says we're open to the situation, we're open to suggestions, we're open to thoughts, but the White House has done literally zero on releasing more oil or increasing production in the United States. Now, we are into week 2 of this crisis. The question is, where does the analysis change and when does the pivot happen? Let's be frank here. We all look at things in a different light, but when people don't answer the question or they give you an answer that's not responsive to the question, you start to put up a red flag. This last week, the Treasury Secretary's undersecretary was asked, have you reached out to West Texas to produce more oil? No. They're asking, we hear from the White House about producing more oil. Have you reached out to them? No. Why not? No response. And then Blinken today saying, we're looking to ban Russian oil. That doesn't solve the situation here. We only use 5% of oil. Only 5% of our oil is from Russia. The question is, why aren't we ramping up production of our oil to bring down the national average? The national average, what are you, if you're in the live chat right now, tell me what you're paying for unleaded in your city this week and how much has it gone up? California's about $5 a gallon, and many gas stations are at $6 a gallon. The nationwide average is $3.83, and that's 26 cents than a week before, but many think it's going to go to $4 next week. That would mean it would have gone up 50 cents in less than 7 days. Now, that's the first number. The second number is what's coming out of England. A series of new reports, including Boris Johnson's comments today, suggest that the Ukraine invasion may not be a 1-week event, or a 2-week event, or a 1-month event. This may be a war that goes on for years to come. And if war goes on for years to come, where is the pivot? Here's the issue. We have 2 things that the White House needs to do today, not yesterday. Actually, need to do it yesterday. Doesn't need to do it tomorrow. Need to do it a week ago. First, the White House needs to release more oil in the United States. Needs to pump more oil and release that at West Texas. That'll bring down our price of gasoline in the United States. Very simple. West Texas are Americans for Americans. They want to release more oil. They want to pump more oil. That'll bring down the price of gasoline in the United States, and that is great news. White House needs to get a coordinated effort by Treasury, should actually have an entire Treasury Department dedicated to the subject matter right now. If I was president, I would have had an entire Treasury Department set up just to task the issue of oil and to task the issue of ramping up production domestically across the board. I would come up with guidelines as to how much oil is produced, when it's produced, and how that number can be tracked. Now understand, this is a mathematical calculation. You release more oil, you bring it down. Not bringing it down enough, release more oil. This is a mathematical calculation. And as government officials, they're paid to do that. They're like financial analysts on Wall Street. Their jobs are to run numbers. And the Treasury should have an entire task force dedicated to going over how to calculate bringing down the price of gasoline by ramping up West Texas. Meantime, the White House should have its team going to West Texas and agreeing upon ramping up that production. That's number one. Number 2, the White House needs to rely on its allies and lean on its allies economically. What's at issue? This is where we talk about international production of oil. America is not sending oil to Italy, too far. America's not sending oil to the other side of the globe too far. Those countries that we do business with are dependent upon oil on Russia. Now that Russia is not part of the equation, they need to get oil from somewhere else. Where do they get the oils from somewhere else? Countries that we do business with. But the problem is that the OPEC plus countries, which is a consortium of countries that includes United Arab Emirates, said they're not ramping up production. Let's go over the details. United Arab Emirates has gasoline stored, can release that gasoline, and then increase production. Because remember, you can't store indefinitely. You only have so much storage facility. The White House should have an entire diplomatic team already dispatched to get our partner countries to release more oil internationally to our other countries that have traditionally been dependent upon Russian oil so that they can pivot and now get it from our partner countries. But when you hear countries like OPEC Plus having meetings last week and refusing to have press attendant, refusing to answer questions from press, and refusing to answer why has it not ramped up production, you have to suspect something's going wrong here. Again, this is something that was an inherent problem that anyone would have seen back in October. Russia potentially invade Ukraine. Okay. If that happens in 2022, then what happens to our countries that we do business with, like Italy, that need Russian oil? Where are they going to get it from? We'll deal with it when it happens. No. The situation's happening right now. And now that we're in the second week of this situation, where in the White House's Secretary of State team have they dispatched diplomatic envoys to our partner countries to say, start pivoting and giving more oil to our partner countries, taking it out of storage, pump, and release? There's both military strategic alliances, humanitarian strategic alliances, and economic strategic alliances. If you've been with this channel over the last 6 months, you remember what happened in mid-2021. It was one of the biggest achievements of Joe Biden's presidency, and it was something I've never seen ever happen so quickly. On a particular week, in 1 week time, Janet Yellen, your Treasury Secretary, who was former head of the Federal Reserve, beloved leader, got on a plane, went overseas, and got a series of the largest countries on the planet to agree to a global minimum tax rate. A few phone calls, a flight, and then the deal was hatched. A global minimum tax rate agreed upon the leaders of economic countries overnight. If they can do something like that so quickly, why can they not figure out how to get oil to our partner countries that are currently dependent on Russia? Why has the White House not ensured that Treasury really dedicates these resources to ensure stabilization of these industries across the land? Now, let's talk about wheat and why wheat is a little bit more complicated than a pile of oil. This issue when we talk about wheat is that if you don't stabilize the wheat, then we go into recession. Recession? Yes. Here's the issue. The way that wheat works is it's a product that Americans eat. We go to the market, we buy bread, we buy our biscuits, we buy our croissants. And when we buy it, it's made upon wheat. Now, it may be wheat you buy in the United States, but it may also be dependent upon the prices overseas. What's at issue? The price of wheat in the United States is dependent upon the price of it trading internationally. So if there's a shortage of wheat internationally, then the price of wheat at home goes up. And that means when you go to the supermarket, you pay more for wheat. Not a good situation. If wheat prices surge out of control, what happens to us? We go into recession. And we can go into recession faster from wheat than oil. Because why? In my opinion, this is a factor no one's looking at. A new report says that the White House has not considered the impact of wheat and other industries like this disrupted by Vladimir Putin. Wall Street admits it has not embedded this into its risk assessments of potential recessions for the next 2 years. And the price escalation of wheat right now is at 9-year highs, bigger price escalations than even gasoline in the last 2 weeks. Case in point, Odessa. When you look at the beautiful town of Odessa, this is the wheat-producing area of Ukraine. And Odessa is currently circled by Russian troops. What happens? If you can't till the soil, you don't have wheat. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Because if you don't have wheat this season, you may not have it for several seasons to go. And if you don't have seasons to go for wheat, then that means we could have big problems for wheat in the United States and recessions for many years. This is why it's a situation that needs to be fixed now economically and pivoted across the board, across the land. Elsewhere, let's look at the situation unfolding on the ground in Ukraine and why the situation today is more troubling across the board. Here's the latest breaking details of what's happening with Vladimir Putin's action of aggression at the time of this recording, which is Sunday, live on air at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, March 6th. First, new sanctions are being levied. President Zelensky of Ukraine indicates that there will be new sanctions levied. I talk to leaders of many countries every day and every night. For example, the United States is preparing new sanctions for Russia. He also says that there will be new support for Ukraine. Number two, a new report says that there is a protocol put in place in the event that President Zelensky is killed by a Russian invasion. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said this morning that Ukraine has put in place a plan of operation in the event it happens. The Ukrainians have a plan in place that I'm not going to talk about or give any details to make sure, but I will tell there will be a continuity of government one way or the other, and I'll leave it at that if there is an event that ends in President Zelensky's death. Next, how about Russia's valuation as economy? Featured on this channel since day one of the invasion, Russia's economy has slipped out of the top 10, likely to 15 now, potentially 20 next week in global size. But Moody's Analytics says that Russia's economy is likely only a 35% recovery rate at the moment, based upon its current situation. I'm predicting that Russia could go to junk status if this continues for more than a month. Next, Poland. We're looking at actively now the question of airplanes to Poland that may provide Ukraine additional backfill should Poland decide to buy those planes. I can't speak on the timeline. This is Blinken this morning. What's at issue? Poland has been providing planes to Ukrainian military defense to battle Russia. These Polish planes are very old manufactured Russian planes. So the Blinken deal is to give Poland some brand new, beautiful American planes so that Poland can give some of its better planes to Ukraine. Basically giving Poland better planes so that Poland can give higher quality planes over to Ukraine. Meantime, Odessa. We've seen the beautiful town of Odessa on this channel for over a week. Vladimir Putin is not taking Odessa yet. This is the beautiful opera house of Odessa. What is Vladimir Putin's focus in addition to taking control of the port? President Zelensky spoke about minutes ago. Russians have always come to Odessa for holiday, felt in Odessa only warmth and only sincerity. And now what? Bombs against Odessa, artillery against Odessa, militaries against Odessa. It's a war crime, and it'll be a historic war crime. A very bad situation unfolding by the minute, by the hour, and you're hearing the latest details on this live broadcast right now, is the issue of evacuation corridors. Evacuation corridors were set up in 2 Ukrainian cities earlier this week as a result of negotiations between Russian and Ukrainian officials. That was about Thursday. Then on Friday, the Russian officials violated it. On Saturday, another talks to reopen those corridors. On Sunday, the corridors again were violated as well. At the time of this recording, it's hard to keep track how many times Russia's violated the corridors, but it looks like it's at least 3 times. The corridors are not working, and this is a very, very serious human rights violation, and it shows the horridness of Vladimir Putin. What's at issue, and what is an evacuation corridor? What does it look like, and what is literally happening? I'll give you a visual so you can imagine what it looks like. You're told by your local city that a ceasefire will be happening for 5 hours on a particular day, and you can go to the highway and walk it to the next town, and there will be nothing around, and you will be safe. Get your mom, your daughter, and your grandma, get your belongings, and get into that highway during these hours and walk for it, and you will be safe. The message is sent out by the local city council. It's posted on their Facebook and Twitter and Instagram account. It's perhaps gone door to door. Everyone gets the message. Everyone's prepared. Everyone gets in the walkway, and they start walking. Understand, these are major cities. These aren't necessarily deserted towns. These are major cities with major roadways. So everyone's in the walkway starting to walk. And then you walk, and then you see it. Cluster bombing. Military Russian troops blocking the road. And you think, what's going on here? We heard that this was a safe harbor corridor. This is what happened in the city of Mariupol, and it's one of two cities that Russia has violated the agreement that it made this week. At the time of this recording, potentially 3 times. I'm losing track how many times it's violated the agreement. So what happens? You have to run back into your home and take shelter because now you're concerned you're going to die. And now footage in the appearing on broadcast media in the last 5 minutes at the time of this recording, I'm not showing it here for obvious reasons, shows people dying in the corridor. These are women and children. These are not armed civilians. These are women and children fleeing for Poland in a safe harbor corridor set up during negotiations between Russian and Ukrainian officials, not once but 3 times, told they would be safe going there and being killed. Vladimir Putin spoke with the head of France minutes ago. And while Vladimir Putin likely didn't agree to anything, many believe that the topic of the discussion was these corridors. These are women and children. They aren't fighting a war. They're trying to flee into a neighboring country. Vladimir Putin wants to take Ukraine. They're leaving Ukraine. They're not a threat to Vladimir Putin. So Macron, during that conversation with Putin, is believed to have said, let the people flee, honor the corridor or corridors. The UN is looking at the situation very seriously, again, another human rights violation by Vladimir Putin, but very, very serious because people can't flee, then what? In my opinion, this may be the major single issue, largest single issue, that could get NATO and the UN involved in the next 24 hours. If you can't get people, women and children, to safely get into Poland, and their safe exit cannot be guaranteed, and even they are in harm's way, then what are we doing as a globe? Here's my personal opinion tonight. When we look at the whole situation unfolding in Russia and Ukraine, we understand what the United States does want to do and doesn't want to do. And we understand a series of new comments from Boris Johnson out of England, that Boris Johnson says that the Western allies are not particularly strong as they need to be doing. Boris Johnson, new report out today, an essay he published today, written by him out of England, the head of England, Putin's acts of aggression, says that we need to do more as allies. He says we need a mobile international human rights coalition, do more to help Ukraine defend itself, maximize economic pressure on the Putin regime, prevent any normalization of Putin's actions in Ukraine, be open to de-escalation diplomacy, and strengthen Euro-Atlantic security. My opinion tonight is that the White House has often looked at the situation in sort of peripheral situations, but sometimes not in detailed situations. Today, at the time of this live broadcast, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State to Joe Biden, has landed in the Baltic states. Why? Because the Baltic states neighbor Russia. And this is a concern that Russia may try to act elements of aggression against the Baltic states. Perfect. He's trying to reassure alliances and make sure that everyone feels safe and secure. He's Secretary of State. That's his job. Great. But when we talk about the economy, what's Janet Yellen's team doing? Janet Yellen's team got a global minimum tax rate in 2 weeks. Is Janet Yellen's team doing anything about the oil situation at home, internationally, with partner countries like United Arab Emirates, like the OPEC plus countries that won't release more gasoline? What are they doing? What are they doing with wheat and grain and other industries that we may be dependent upon destabilization of our economy? What are they doing with that? Now, understand that Treasury has lifetime employees whose jobs are to run numbers. That's their job. They come to the office, they run numbers, and they do calculations. This goes up 10 cents, that goes down 10 cents. So how can we move the number? That's their job. Give them a task, they do the job. This is something that has to be done now. And then when you have a plan, you say, oh, we have an issue. Then you come in diplomacy. Then you have the team and the leadership of the White House say, okay, we're going to reach out to these partner countries to stabilize these industries. Blinken's doing a great job. Biden's doing a great job with the partner countries for NATO alliances and strategic issues. But what about the economic issues? Americans know simple things. They know you produce more gasoline, it goes down. They know that West Texas is not producing more gasoline. They know we don't only import 5% of gasoline from Russia. They know that when you say ban Russian oil, that we only consume 5% of Russian oil. So when you hear things like that on the news, you say to yourself, wait a second, I already know that's not an issue. So why are you bringing up something that's not an issue to us? Banning Russian oil in the U.S. economy, that's only 5% of our economy. That's not going to bring down the price of oil. We need to do it. We need to do it. But that's not an economic solution. So why are we talking about something that's not an economic solution? It's things like that that make people sort of skittish because they say, wait a second. Are you telling me this because you want me to think that that's going to somehow bring down the price of gasoline? Because I know it's not. So why are you saying that? Today, Joe Biden said, pass Build Back Better Act because gasoline's going up. Good. Using one economic problem to pass another piece of legislation. Fine, I'll use whatever economic problem I can to pass Build Back Better Act. But you got to fix the price of gasoline separate and apart from Build Back Better Act. Meantime, the humanitarian crisis. This is a horrible situation. And if you are a NATO ally, and your job is to protect NATO countries, and Ukraine is not a NATO country, and you're looking on and saying, I'm a NATO country, come to our NATO country as a refugee, we'll take safe harbor for you, and you look from afar, and you look at that woman and daughter in the potential safety corridor going in there, and they don't have safety, what do? You do nothing because Ukraine is not a NATO country? I really do believe, I think in the next 30, 40, 72, 85 hours, something's going to change if these corridors cannot be kept safe. NATO countries are here to protect NATO countries. I got it. And I got Ukraine is not a NATO country. But you can't just sit back and watch women and children not be able to safely exit a country that has a peaceful existence like Ukraine. You can't just sit back and say, hey, you're not a NATO country. I'm not gonna worry that women and children can't safely flee the country. Are we that so? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I really do believe that someone of the Western allies is going to say, no, I know that Ukraine is not a NATO country, but we have to allow women and children to be able to get through these corridors to safety. And we've tried it 3 times with Russia and Ukraine agreeing to it. Macron, great job by Macron, getting Putin on the phone and speaking to him. But if Macron, the head of the president of France, can't get Putin to do it, and Angela Merkel, she can't get Putin to do it, who's going to get Putin to agree to get these corridors safe? And if we can't get the corridors safe, then how do we let people get out safely? It's a very fluid situation. Let me jump in the live chat and see what your comments are across the board right now. Alberta says, agree. Anne says, LA's on point. Charlotte says, hello, Purple Power community. And I stand with Ukraine, says Anne. So do we know what the verdict is? We don't, because we've had 3, and that comment came in from, I lost it, I think it was La Costa. We don't, because we've had 3 violations of the safe corridor in less than 24 hours. We've gone back and forth for the old days, and now we're not getting progress, says Loyola. Kimberly says the government has a golden rule game, and they seem to make all the rules. That's one of the comments that came in today from broadcast media was Russia says things and doesn't stand by it. So if Russia can provide safe harbor and want to interfere with agreements it's made about safe harbor, then what? I'll have more tonight on that evening's LA special report. Watch me tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. With America's most watched financial show in prime time, it's Evenings LA, and it goes over all these incredible sums of money, that $80,000 in new checks, the big money from Build Back Better Act, CR for stimulus, SS300, and more, and the impact of the world events on your money at home. It's tonight and every night at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's Evenings LALATE. And if you're watching this show live on air, coming up next is the 1 o'clock edition of Afternoons LALATE. If you're watching this tape late in the day, next up, Evenings Extra. Stay informed and stay focused. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of Ukraine and all people trying to seek safe harbor tonight. Stay with LA for more.